My question to you would be is, given, they have Jalen Duren, do you think he would be a good fit for the Pistons?
On paper, probably not, unless you think that he can shoot early. And maybe not, maybe it doesn't need to happen in year one, but it would have to happen at some point in the first probably year two, just for knowing the timeline that Cade is on and kind of the struggles that have been there with that. Again, going back to Sarr being at where he is as a shooter also, and, having him as somebody who you probably want to factor as one of your core pieces going forward. But yeah, fit-wise, I think it would be more of you're taking him for the talent purposes. You go ahead and play him and Duren together, see what they can do, see how it looks, how his shot is coming along. Obviously, you've got an example like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and the way that they've been able to make things happen. So it's not necessarily impossible in the league to do something that looks similar. But I think ultimately, when you've got two guys who probably are most optimized as fives in the NBA, you probably have to make that decision at some point. So I think if you think Sarr is going to be a better player, then you go ahead, or has the potential to be a better player, you go ahead and do it. If not, then you probably should look elsewhere. That's kind of where the two roles split on Sarr. I personally think he's the best player in the draft and would consider him. I also was very high on Jalen Duren for people who, watched my stuff that year. So it's kind of it's a tough decision, but one that, especially given some of where his defense has gone in the league to this point and kind of underwhelming in certain aspects, then maybe you make that decision. But that's kind of a trade, because obviously he's more physical. There's certain things that he's able to do that Sarr won't, but there's also the ways that he can cover ground, defending the pick and roll and all those types of things that he has a leg up on.
I would say like this year with Duren, like his defense completely like fell off a cliff. Like, his rookie year, he was protecting the rim. I don't know if it's all the ankle injuries he's had in his, first 2 years in the NBA. I mean, you can look it up. Like 90% of his injuries have all been ankle related. So I don't know if that's affecting him to, be a rim protector, but there are instances this year where he just wasn't trying. Like James Wiseman, for all intents and purposes, was probably the Pistons' best defender at center. And it's not a shot at James Wiseman. I mean, that's just how bad Jalen Duren was. So I think some Pistons fans look at Sarr and they look at the defensive potential. They look at how he can protect the rim. He's got really quick feet for a big man too. Like that's something I noticed about him. Like just like watching the tape, watching some games on him. And I think that's where Pistons fans get intrigued from, because maybe you draft Sarr and Duren's coming off your bench. Because I personally don't think like this a too big lineup with them stylistically from a spacing perspective makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that you could probably do it because the Pistons are rebuilding. You could figure it out, but obviously you've had the experience of running two bigs the last however many years, and it's just not going to work unless he can shoot. That's the thing. If he can shoot it early enough, then you might have something. And at least draw some type of respect and from the defense. Even Isaiah Stewart, as much as he's improved as a shooter over time, he's not really getting the respect from the defense. So the spacing isn't exactly there. His threat as a shooter just isn't making as big of an impact. But yeah, that would be the thing. It's just going to come down to whether or not you think that Sarr is a better player or is going to be a better player than Duren. And I think that, his versatility on the defensive end and the ways that he's able to cover ground, and then also some of the offensive upside, just being able to do a little bit more things and handle the ball a little bit. Obviously, it's not all there yet right now, but in the future, he obviously has the potential to do things that Jalen Duren just won't be able to.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch Sarr, he's got a little bit of I see a little bit of Jaren Jackson in there. When you post up, I see a little bit of Joel Embiid, just like the footwork. Like there's so much flashes there with him. I think that's where I would be intrigued. If we're lucky to get the first pick, we're probably going to get washed and get fifth again. It happens every year, but you never really know. Like honestly, man, I don't know what it is. I just think the NBA lottery is not too kind to Pistons fans over the last couple of years.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think the 5th pick would be the worst thing possible. Obviously, last year missing out on getting Victor Wembanyama, I don't think we talk about how colossal because that was my favorite fit for him. The Pistons were, because you had somebody like Cade there already. You have Duran who could, bang inside just a little bit early on. Obviously, they tried that in San Antonio. It ended up he's kind of has to play the 5 full time to like fully get out of him what you can. But I thought that was a really good landing spot for him in the future. And obviously, you go down to 5, get a Sarr, who I think is good, but there's just 2 different worlds of conversations we'd be having right now. If it was Cade and Wemby this year, I think they probably win 30 games just off the strength of that. And then in this year's draft, I think if you get to the 5th spot, like that makes your options a little bit easier. Whoever has been taken from that point, you don't have the pressure of like putting this guy as the number 1 pick and all the things that come with that. And it might end up being somebody who on paper fits a little bit better and is also the best player available. So that's just a glass half full type of outlook on it.
Oh, trust me, I had those conversations last year. Like, I was a really big Brandon Miller guy. Like I said, I don't expect us to win the lottery, but if like you're like at 2, 3, Brandon Miller, maybe you try Scoot Henderson, I don't know. Like that draft class last year, as much as people said it was weak, like you look in the first round, even the second, like there was a lot of talent in that draft.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the better classes of the last 10 years at least. I think obviously you got Wemby, you've got Brandon Miller. Both the Thompson twins have high-level flashes this year. And then even going down to like Jaime Jaquez and Podziemski and Derek Lively, like there's just a lot of talent there.